Welcome to this week's Winners on a Wednesday. I'm here with my good friend Jeremy Grigg, and Jeremy has gone through the crash course. He's done a lot of property training with myself and the team. He quit his job as a teacher 2 years ago from a successful network marketing business. Now he's in property. He just made £70,000 from his last deal. So Jeremy, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well, Samuel. Thanks for having me along.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming. So tell us a bit about your background and where you kind of came from.
Well, I'm based in Cornwall. I've taught for a very, very long time, and I love the job. And I think you're probably aware the longer you spend in a job, the more successful you get, the further away you actually get from your roots. So I was a teacher for 18, 20 years. I left to develop property back in 2004. And got caught in the recession in 2008 when I believe you bought your first place.
Yeah.
And do you know, I know you shouldn't regret things, but looking back, if I had went through that again, I would beg, borrow, steal money to try and reinvest at that point.
So hold on, you left job as a teacher to be a property developer in 2004.
Yep.
Did you buy many properties then?
We bought refurbishment properties.
But you sold them?
Yeah.
And you're regretting selling them?
Well, we kept 3.
Yeah.
Which have let out and actually helped my cash flow, but they were single lets, some flats that we kept. And to be honest with you, we got greedy. The last job was, rather than a maisonette that we converted into 2 flats, we ended up with a nice place looking out to sea. And we bought the place with an idea to flip it in 2 or 3 months. And just before, the day before exchange, the credit crunch hit, all the news hit, and we ended up losing enough money for me to make the decision to go back to teaching.
So that must have been absolutely demoralising, leaving your job as a teacher to be a property developer and then having to go back to your job. How did that feel?
Yeah, it was a tough one. It was a really tough one. And, do you know, as a teacher, do you know, I love working with kids. And it wasn't an issue of going back to teaching, but yeah.
But you just had your dreams crushed.
Yeah, and it was definitely a mindset thing. And for me, do you know, I went back and I was still searching for something else. We kept some property. I've got 3 children which I need to support, which was the decision that I made at that time to go back and support them for the regular income and everything that we talk about. And I was really searching for something at that stage to learn about passive income. And I knew I rented property out. I think I've heard you and your brother talk about leaving money in deals. And at that stage, because we were short of money and paying back money to different people through the development, do you know, I wasn't leaving enough in property.
Yeah.
And actually, I wasn't treating it as a business, if I'm honest with you. And I'd been in a lucky situation as a teacher where, with my personal finances, yeah, I didn't have to be so careful with that. And one of the biggest things I think I picked up from your crash course, excuse me, bless you. I think one of the biggest things from the crash course was about property as a business. And each property that you have should be run as a business.
Yeah.
And actually, your personal finances should be run as a business. And do you know, the pots of money has been a massive change for me. So several years on from that, do you know, after my decision to leave teaching for the second time, and luckily enough there was network marketing there, that's what introduced me to personal development. And do you know, the company that I work with was a personal development company that happened to introduce people to utilities and save money from utilities. And I'll be honest with you, do you know, for a long time I didn't read a thing. And do you know, I love rugby, I love contact sports and all the associated stuff with it. And until I got to 44, I'd never read a book. And to then read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I sat spellbound, to be honest with you, and read it over and over.
Why were you spellbound?
My grandfather made money back in the 80s, and he passed away before he could really pass things on, I believe, to me. He was a Cockney, came down to Cornwall, but an entrepreneur as well. He went to Africa to start up a tobacco farm. Didn't work out, came back, did a milk round, became a farmer for a point, and then bought a small holding, and a builder came to him and said, I haven't got any money, but you've got some land on your small holding. If you let me build a house on that land, I will sell the house, and then I'll give you the money back for the land. Which I believe, is something like a lease at that time, whether or not it was a lease option or whether or not that was signed. But my grandfather was doing property deals back in the 80s.
Creative joint ventures and stuff.
Absolutely, when I was 10. And do you know, at that time I wasn't able to pick anything up from him. The Rich Dad Poor Dad, the spellbinding bit for me was actually, there's another world. My grandfather left me a few quid when he passed away, and I bought a cottage in Cornwall for about 27,000. And all of my family are employees through and through, which is a big thing, because I was very influenced by the people around me. I love them to bits, and I listen to people. But I bought this place for 27,000. At that time, it rented out at 375. Now, I got a buy-to-let mortgage, which I think was about 6 or 7% at the time, because it was higher than what you get in the bank. And I thought I was doing something criminal, because I know the mortgage was this much money, and then the rent that was coming in was this much more. And I thought I had to keep it quiet, because, do you know, perhaps I'm doing something illegal here. Why isn't everybody doing this?
Yeah.
And I went on and remortgaged that one and bought another one, and we did some barn conversions in Cornwall. But they were all single lets and done in a very amateur way, to be quite honest with you. Didn't know about refinancing. I did a bit of refinance, but didn't know the theory behind it. I just wanted to get some money out of it, which ended up as bad debt because I spent it on holidays and other things. But the Rich Dad Poor Dad thing was, when you look at bad debt and good debt, I knew the basics behind it, but I didn't have that. I think the first time I met you, you know, you said to me about, right, work your strategy out, have confidence in what you're doing. And I lacked that confidence. And joining the academy, and I would take my hat off to you, joining the academy has given me that confidence. I think you've had Prashant here on a Winners on a Wednesday.
Yep.
He's part of our group. Do you know, he's fantastic.
Part of your mastermind within the academy.
Yeah, absolutely. And him and his brother sat here in this very table, sat here quiet, and they've become really good friends. And they've got an SA business, but also it's the way that he does it. And for me, do you know, I read a book called The Go-Giver, and it's a business concept, if you like, about. And I think I've heard you say this before. If you help as many people in life get what they want, you'll end up getting what you want.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, I didn't understand that for a while. And it was one of those, because I think the opposite is the go-getter. And, you know, I thought in life, very much old school, if you want to be successful, you've just got to plough into things and you've got to go blindly into things, and it's all about work ethic. And I think I was brought up that way. And, do you know, there's a lot of, it's good to have a work ethic, but to do it blindly is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you need a strategy, which is what I was really searching for. So back to your original question, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, wow, that gave me almost like I can imagine my grandfather saying those things. He may never have not said those things, but it was something I thought, that's the basics. That's what bad debt, that's what good debt is. Do you know, so you can reduce that. You can look at your pots of money.
So what year was this when you read that book, and then what happened?
That was about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
and that was when you then set up a network marketing business?
Yeah. I'd actually joined the network marketing business because of a friend.
Yeah.
You know, I trusted him, seemed like a good idea. He saved me a few quid, so I went along with it.
What you said was very interesting, though, about how it actually, it's not really a network marketing business, it is, but really it's a personal development program with a compensation plan, right? Yeah. So you're getting introduced to all these people like Jim Rohn and all these books and CDs, and you're growing as a person, which you would never do in a job. No. And it makes you think entrepreneurially.
Well, in years in education, and I mean no disrespect to the management teams that I work with, do you know, because there were some amazing people in there, but it is an institution. And do you know, the bell rings, you teach, the bell rings, you stop teaching. And you go on CPD, which might teach you about assessment or marking or the national curriculum, but it's not about you as a person. And I love the opportunity that you've given me to sit and talk about this, because I've changed so much in the last 3 or 4 years. It's ridiculous. And I think some people close to me will say, you're brainwashed, do you know what, do you know, because it's, and I know it's because they care about me, but it's a misunderstanding, I think.
Why do you think people in your family would think that you're brainwashed? And don't you think results speak for themselves? Like, if you're doing property deals, you're successful, you don't need to work anymore at a job because you've got a property business and you've got your network marketing business. Why do you think people say that?
Do you know, for a long time, I've been the risk taker, if you like, in the family. And, do you know, coming from a background of employees, I've got 3 generations in the police force, and I'm penciled in for the police force. And, do you know, I had to go and tell my grandmother, I'm sorry, Gran, I'm not going to be a policeman. And she said, what are you going to be? And I said, well, a teacher. And that was the next best thing, if you like, which gives you an idea of kind of the mentality, if you like.
What would she have said if you'd have said, I'm going to be a property investor?
Well, one, she wouldn't have understood it. 2, I don't know. She would have probably keeled over, I should think.
Yeah.
Just because that was, do you know, she was a strict Methodist. She played the organ in the local chapel, and do you know, that was her understanding of a tick in the box, if you like, of what's right. And I've been a risk taker, and I was lucky when my grandfather left me a few £1,000s when he passed away. But I knew that wasn't right, just to sit there and create bad debt from that. Do you know? Yeah, I like spending money. I think I'm naturally a saver, if I'm honest with you. I know you've had people on here which are certainly spenders, but it's about having that balance and having those pots of money, so actually you can work and you can spend within your means.
And when you say pots of money, you're talking about at the crash course where I teach how to manage your money, how the difference between good debt and bad debt, how to invest smart and all that kind of stuff. How's that helped you then in life?
Well, it's so simple. It is so simple. And now I've got a wallet with about 7 different cards in it, because there's different bank accounts set up for a savings account, for a play account.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm not very good at that. Do you know, of spending money on yourself. And I'm doing a parachute jump for charity on Friday, which is a comfort zone thing. And I know I'm shooting around at the moment, but that was another big thing about comfort zones. I think I was on a course a little while back, and you knew that I was sheltering in my comfort zone. And do you know, you're 27, I'm 47, I'm 20 years your senior. But do you know what? You came over and drew out of me that day, because you got me up on stage and said, right, you can talk about HMOs. And I knew after speaking to Alistair, which I'd really like to talk about his mentoring as well, because he's been a great inspiration to me.
Yeah.
But I remember him talking on stage at the first time, and he'd said, Samuel got me up on stage, and he said, I fell flat on my face, and you laughed, but then picked him up and constructively rebuilt him. And the next time, he was 1,000 times better. And I've just seen him talk in front of 120 people today, and it was inspirational.
Yeah.
It was a complete and utter difference in such a short time. Now, I'm used to talking in front of kids, up to 1,000 kids on an assembly. And my partner is the same. She's still in teaching. And do you know, at one of your crash courses, I spoke in front of 1,000 people that was sat there at the end, which was, my legs were shaking. Do you know, and what's the difference? What is it? It's, do you know, children to adults that are going to start judging you maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the fact that you get out of your comfort zone, and you got me on stage that day, and I went up quite willingly because I know I've got to do it. But for a long time, I've sat there, and I look back in Cornwall, a big fish in a small pond maybe, and never really pushed myself. And yeah, financially, do you know, it was a really slow burner for us. Do you know, I chased shiny objects for a long time. I sat in this room with you, and we had our strategy. We were going to go for deal sourcing because we don't have a lot of capital at the moment. And we're going to try and create some passive income by cherry picking the best deals. And if a lease option comes along, fantastic.
Clear plan.
Absolutely. And then all of a sudden, yeah, but why not SA? Cornwall's good at SA. Well, why I'm chasing that. I'm chasing somebody else. And it took a long time to actually say, whoa, hang on a minute. Because actually, do you know, I let some property in Cornwall now, 3 or 4 that we kept from the development time, which has kept us going with a passive income. But then other people came to me and said, well, hang on, you're letting these places, how much are you charging? And I was undercutting local agents. So they came to me, and friends and family. I ended up with 15 or 16 properties. But it's a job. And once I've really understood the passive and the active, and I had a lot of active, and I still do. So I'm not financially free, but I'm full-time property. And my aim is very clear now.
It kind of goes like, first goal is to be full-time in property, next goal financially free, then ultimately financially free, and then it gets to the point where it's just mission.
Absolutely.
And I guess there's crisscross between them. But, I mean, how does it feel then to be full-time in property successfully? How does life compare now to when you were, say, in teaching?
Oh, it's absolutely totally different. Do you know, as much as I jumped around a little bit, I said about the charity jump, it's, do you know, the why was really important. In network marketing, you always have to have a why. What are you actually sat here for? And do you know, I have 3 kids that aren't kids anymore. I've got twin girls who are 20, and they're in Australia now, and I've got a lad who's 16, nearly 17, and they're going to want to go to university, and I want to provide, but I don't want to provide money and say, look, there's a load of money, go for it. I want to provide a financial literacy.
Yes.
And that's been paramount for me. What I've picked up now, I've done 3 crash courses, so I've really used and abused your hospitality, and thank you.
You're welcome anytime.
And I came to the first one and I was blown away. And I actually came with my bookkeeper, who sadly has been diagnosed with a terminal illness. And he was another reason that I made the jump, if you like. He was another reason. Life's too short. But he came along and said, look, I know you want to do this. I'll support you. We'll go up, we get the 2 tickets, we'll go. And I went and learned so much that day that I came back to speak to my partner, who will admit she's institutionalised, she's been a teacher for a long time. I said, but I found something here and I really need you. I don't want you to agree with me, but I want you to come and have a look for this. And I tried my best not to, oh, look, he's going to say this in a minute, he's going to say that in a minute, and this. And she sat there for 2 days, because the crash course, value for money, is phenomenal. I think the first day you do 9 until about 9:30, 10 at night.
Yeah.
And from a teaching point of view, I know if you teach for 8 hours, you're slaughtered at the end of the day. Well, you're doing it for 12 hours. And I'm not here to blow smoke up your backside, but when I came in and saw you on stage, you had, I think there was about 800 or 900 people in that crash course, the first one, and you had them right there, and you had them there for 2 days. And I left teaching thinking, wow, I've pushed that behind. But I don't think it was the education that I was leaving behind. It was the system that it was within. And to see you work with people that really want to learn from you. There's a few there, skeptics. There are still a few skeptics, and you could hear the odd whisper around. I think, what are you doing here? Do you know? And there's almost people that are doubters, that they want to prove things wrong, maybe to make themselves feel better. But to see you work with those people in 2 days, it did inspire me as, do you know, as an educator, if you like. And do you know, as much as my why is to create a financial literacy for my kids, I'd like to take that further in the long term. I need to prove myself, and I don't think it's lucky breaks. I put a lot of work in, and slowly things are starting to turn around now.
Yeah.
And under Alistair's menteeship and working with Max as well, who's fantastic, there is an element to me, even though I'm a big chap, and it's almost that extra little bit of support. It's that little bit of, yeah, all right, you're doing that. Oh, hang on, this situation's come up. What do you think? Well, I'd say that in that situation. And do you know, after joining the academy and going through wow, at the moment, we haven't got our money in the bank, to looking at a chunk of money, which proportionally at that time was a large chunk of money, and then to look back 4 months later, or 4.5 months later, and think, wow, that's the best money that I've spent, and really look at value. And I'm dotting around, but you said about the book, the 4-hour working week, and about working out what your value is, and what your worth is, your hourly worth. And actually, if you're doing something, you're working for yourself, and your hourly worth is £50 an hour, why would you wash your own car, or why would you pay somebody? Why would you spend time doing stuff when you can pay somebody to do? And that just made total sense. But it's another concept to get your head around.
The thing is, people might call you brainwashed now, but actually, I think most people that are institutionalised are actually the brainwashed ones. People that think they have to work 9 to 5 for 40 years to then retire with a pension in their 60s and 70s. That really, looking forward to the weekends, that's brainwashed. The fact that that's normal, and the fact that people think that that's okay, when you can very easily live a life of freedom where you don't have to worry about finances, you don't have to constantly look at the price tag of everything, you can live life on your terms. I mean, really, that's not being brainwashed, that's just living a good life, surely. So it's fantastic, and I totally get what you said about, you know, you being an educator, a teacher. I'm an educator, and it's a mission, and you've even got a whiff of that mission. It starts with, I want my family, I want my kids. I'm the same. I don't want to leave my kids millions of pounds. What I want to leave them is, I want to leave them with a millionaire mind. And not just my kids, but actually all my YouTube subscribers and all the crash course delegates. And it becomes a mission. And I think it's part of changing really what we're doing is we're changing nations, we're changing the way people think, we're changing the way people see themselves, see money, and giving people a much better quality of life. So I'm really glad that you're in on that mission and in on that vision.
I love it. I love it. And being part of the academy, and I do say I'm in a fortunate position that I'm full-time into property, which has allowed me the time to come and spend. But I've gone on your courses over and over. I've gone on 1,000 Kings, which was amazing. And I don't have a strong faith, but I'm very open.
Yeah.
And to meet the people from that network was amazing, absolutely amazing, and a very, very different feel to anything that I've ever done before. And I think back to the money bit, from what you're doing in Uganda, yes, you found something that you really want to give to, and you're continuing to give to. That's one thing, digging wells and providing fresh water, but also you run some business enterprise stuff, which isn't, and I forget the analogy about the fish.
Yeah, what I say is there's a saying which most people have heard, which says if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, but if you teach a man a fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. And I believe in both. So what we do in Africa is we don't just give people fish, but we don't just teach them to fish, we do both. So we give water, we give food and practical needs, because if you try and teach someone to fish who's starving, it's not nice. So we give them practical things, but then we also run business workshops, which are free, and we also give out free business loans for entrepreneurs and budding business people to be able to start businesses. Because I think that really true entrepreneurship is what changes nations, and I believe in being a generous capitalist, whereby don't expect the state to look after the people, but let the people look after the people. And we don't go to Uganda and Zambia and places and just give. We want to build up successful entrepreneurs from within the villages to then give themselves. So it's just good news all round, and that's what we call the projects that we do.
Well, that analogy is exactly where I want to go with. To start with my family, my children, my nucleus, but I don't want it to stop there.
Yeah.
And as I learn and progress, and I've no doubt I'm not going to stop. The knowledge that I've got now, I need to implement and create my own financial freedom, and then pass that on.
And you've done that, or are doing that. I mean, most people that are successful financially, they hide away, and the reason that normally when I was growing up and I was doing property, as a teenager, I'd meet, if I met someone that was really successful, I'm not talking about a little bit successful, but absolutely killing it in property, owned a lot of property development, whatever. Usually, trying to pick their brain was like trying to get blood out of a stone. They'd keep their cards really close to their chest. They wouldn't tell you what they're doing, and they'd be quite secretive about it. And I kind of want to be the opposite of that. I don't want to hide away as a successful person. I want to vlog what I'm doing on YouTube, show people, reveal exactly what I'm doing to give other people hope and also to give other people the education. Tell me about the property deal that you've just done where you've made a £70,000 finder's fee.
Before I did, the big thing for me is JVs and
joint ventures.
Yeah, joint ventures. And I'm fascinated by business. And I was in a partnership when we developed with a builder. But the whole principle, the whole basis of a JV is so simple. And listening to the ZDFE when we came down and listened to that, and Trevor actually is fantastic.
Yep.
And the basics of putting the heads of terms together and just having a conversation and actually putting it on an email and actually getting to a place where, okay, how are we going to make decisions on this? Do you know what's the exit for this, and how are we going to communicate? And just the basics of it. I love talking to people, and it's all about relationships, which when you said that, I thought, bingo, I found something, that I can get out and talk to people. And that's been the thing. Once I actually started and got out of my comfort zone and started speaking to people, traveling around the country, and that's the biggest thing for me, is finding people that not necessarily have the same expertise or the same skill set that I have, but it can bring something together. And the deals that we've done have all been through joint ventures, which have been phenomenal for us, because we found deals, and in northeast Lincolnshire, I'd sat and chat to an HMO manager who turns out to be a sophisticated investor. He's been through an education package over the last 8 or 10 years. He's developed property through lease option agreements and is developing quite a quite a varied portfolio now. And do you know, we soon went off HMO rooms to all sorts, and we'd sat there for 3 hours talking about property and business, and it was this likeness straight away, and there was a connection. And do you know, because I wasn't pushing, well, I wasn't selling anything, and it was serving before you sell, I guess. And we've ended up doing a joint venture together, and lots of as he's moving on to bigger deals, we're working as a sourcing arrangement with him in a joint venture, which is really exciting. Who knows what's going to happen with it?
Yeah.
But he's got a big network that's tapping into in that area. And I was really disillusioned because the personal development for me has been fantastic. And I think we've spoken about network marketing, Go for No. And,
yeah.
And I'm reading an amazing book called Can't Hurt Me at the moment, which is about an American Marine who had an atrocious lifetime growing up, and just the callousing his mind. He talks about it, about how to get through, and actually most people work on about 40% of any potential that they have. And actually reading books like that has helped me pick me up at the end of the day, knowing that tomorrow's another day. The next person you speak to, who knows? You might speak to the next 5. Nothing. I think you do on stage one of these where you go across the stage. And it's exactly right. And I was sat there at the end of a long day, lots of viewings, and I think, now I've got no deals here, there's nothing. And I was in an Airbnb, and the guy phoned up because there was an issue with the telly, I think, and he said, what are you up here for? A bit of business? He said, what do you do? I'm a property investor. Oh, I've got a property that I'm interested in selling. Okay, well, would you like to meet up? Yeah, okay, so we went for breakfast the next day in very high-end Witherspoons in that area, and we sat and chatted, and it wasn't about property for the first little bit. He was sort of, I knew he was gauging me. Do you know, what are you? What's your background? And one property became 3, and then we left, and I gave him a call back the next week, and he said, well, actually, I've got 5 properties. And then after some further communication, it ended up as 17 properties. And at that point, I'll be honest, Samuel, I was out of my depth. Do you know, this was one of the first deals. Do you know, I'd stayed in this guy's Airbnb, and I wasn't sure how to handle it, how to package it. It was a couple of months back that we'd started to talk about this, and the negotiations took a little time. And when he'd settled on a price, do you know, I thought, wow, the figures really work on that. He was your classic motivated seller, really.
Why was he selling?
He'd built up the property over a lifetime. He'd got remarried, and he was looking to spend more time in Spain, and he didn't want the hassles that come along with, and he was an old school, managing all the properties himself, which was a lot of property, and he still has more property. So at that point, I was thinking, wow, this is a deal. How do I package it? Mm-hmm. Which was the point then that I reached out to other people within the academy that had, because I didn't have a list at that time. I knew I hadn't started Alistair's menteeing, and I knew that was where I wanted to go, but I didn't have it at the moment, and you can't suddenly just materialise a list out of here. So I spoke to another academy member who has done a lot of networking. He's ridiculously young, and do you know, I say about you being 27 and me 47, and then there's people out there at 21, and just off the subject, Leah Miller, do you know, she's 21, 22 now.
I think she might be 21.
21. Yeah. Well, my daughters are nearly 21. And, do you know, I'd said to Zara, who's out there, look, I've just met this girl on a crash course. She's part of the crew. She's running around. I think she's earning £40,000 a month, or a figure that came up. And you could just hear silence on the end of the phone. And my daughter was in Brisbane. I said, look, when you're back, I'd really like to take you along to this. And I saw Leah afterwards, and she said, yeah, don't worry, I'll catch up with your daughter on Instagram or whatever she was contacting social media. And Zara contacted me the next day. And said, you never guess what, that Leah Miller, she contacted me on, and she came to a crash course. Zara came over when she came back. And who knows, I'm just very aware I don't want to push, because I think if you push too hard, people push back the other way.
Yeah.
But for her making a decision, she's one of twins. Zoe is very academic. She's got a mathematical mind. She knows that she needs university. And I said, fantastic, I'll support that. That's brilliant. And I said, even though I know what I'm doing and where I want to go, do you know, if you want to get a job and be an employee, as long as you're open to where the system works and you manage your money, I've got no issues with that. If you want Han to manage the money, I'd like to try and help. Zara, on the other hand, she hasn't found anything that really floats her boat. And I think going back to what you said to me about full-time property, I actually wake up in the morning now and it's no issue. I'm up. And actually I try and run now in the mornings and try and do the miracle morning as well. But it's about having that why, and Zara hasn't found that why yet.
Yeah.
Zoe knows that she's got something that will structure her now over the next 3 or 4 years. Her exact words were to me, I want to make money. I said, but what do you want to do? Because it's really important, not knowing the job, but what area do you want to be in? And if you want to work for yourself, great. I'll support you with that. And there's ways of training. Zara, she hasn't found that yet.
But the fact that you're there and the fact that they're coming to the crash course and stuff, it's fantastic.
I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was one in London, and we were staying in the Ibis, I think.
Yes.
At.
But so you got this deal, going back to the deal.
Yeah, sorry.
And you passed it on to a 20-something, 21, 22-year-old person on the academy.
Yeah.
And he then collected how much money?
Well, he was very cool about it. He's now in his client account has got £70,000 fee in his client account.
Fancy that though, a 21-year-old selling your deal for £70,000. The money's now in the bank. And what, are you going splitsies on that? Going halves?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well, it is fantastic. And there's part of me when you talk about voices in your head. Is this actually happening? Is this too good to be true? Is this what everybody says? No, it's too good to be true. So
yeah.
We're going to come suddenly take this away.
And the investor's happy?
The investor's happy. The deal's still going through.
Yeah.
And who knows? But it's possible, Samuel. And
yeah.
Do you know, I hear myself say things sometimes, but actually maybe don't believe it. And it takes time. And then one day you wake up and go, oh, do you know what? I've been telling everyone this. And actually, no, this is possible. And this is really working. And yeah, I get emotional. I talk about legacies for my kids and, you know, creating stuff for the future, because that means a lot to me. And it's not actually the money. It's not I want to wake up and I want to have a bigger car than you, or I've got a Skoda, so it's not bigger than you. But it's not about having this massive house, or it's about the making money bit really excites me. I think playing Monopoly as a kid, I used to get overexcited about this. And you know, actually now at 48 years of age, or 47 years of age, I've actually got a toolkit now. I know you say to me that the academy isn't a lottery ticket. You've got to implement.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to get. I think in network marketing, 7 green, I need a lot of information. And I was chasing information, chasing shiny objects. And actually now, 5 months in, I know where I'm going to get.
That's brilliant.
To give credit to Alistair, if that would be okay.
Because I know he's one of the trainers on the academy.
Well, he's doing his deal selling mastery at the moment, and I went there this morning and I said, look, do you know, I'd really like to give you a testimonial, because the support that you've given, considering how quickly your business has snowballed, if you like, and the academy is growing at such a rate, and which is fantastic. And I know Alistair's now a big part of that. And his business, he's still hanging up. Max is obviously a big part of that.
Yeah.
But to be a mentee, he spent time when he probably hasn't got time. And I'm sure he doesn't want to answer my calls at 8 o'clock at night or whatever he's doing. And it's been great. And for me, it's been absolutely critical on my journey, because it's just given me enough.
It's great.
And actually, it's a business expense. Do you know, you look at the financial investment that you're putting in. And I talk to Rex about this, because I do use Rex each month. Because if we're looking at mentors and systemising businesses and looking at how to develop each business, Rex has been absolutely fantastic.
And yeah, you can claim it back. If you spend money on a program, a training program, then you're going to offset that against your profit in the business.
Yeah.
So absolutely, it's a no-brainer. What would be your final words of advice to someone that was looking at getting into property and was wondering where to start?
This should be really simple, but I've got 2 brothers, and do you know, one brother, Joe, he's into property as well, and he's watching my progress. So he's another one, and we talk about frogs and logs, and he's one who's just watching, and he watches your podcasts, and he'll run and listen to your podcasts. And I mentioned that I might be coming on here, and he said, seriously? He said, so how's it going? And do you know, I ache for the people close to me to support, and I have done for a long time, but actually coming out of comfort zones and actually going back to your analogy when you said to your dad that you don't want to be part of his business, that must have been massive.
Yeah.
And the church.
Yeah.
And do you know, I look back on that and I gain strength, I think, from that, because I haven't got that around me at the moment. But do you know, I'd like to think that, back to your advice bit, that you just got to get out and do it. Get to a crash course, listen, be open-minded. Don't sit there and think, I want to prove this wrong. Just sit there and just listen. Do you know, it's free, it's not going to cost you a penny. Come along, educate yourself. And I believe there's people that go from a crash course and go out and smash it. And I know I see people on your other winners on a Wednesday that are doing that.
Yeah.
For me, I needed something more. I knew I needed more. I've always been a team player, and I knew I needed the academy. And I was so glad when my partner said, you've got to do this.
How's your partner doing now?
She's good. She's good. The other part of it for me is to give her options.
Yeah.
Do you know, she's taught for a very long time. And don't get me wrong, I couldn't run the business without her. She's behind the scenes. She does so much.
Yeah.
But to give her options would be absolutely wonderful.
That's great. Well, I'm really grateful that you've come on the show, and I look forward to seeing your continued success. Congratulations on all you've done so far, and it's been a fantastic interview.
Thanks, Sally.
Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Thank you so much for watching the video. That is the reason why I'm doing this. Your success is my oxygen. Every single week we've got people becoming financially free. If you'd like to see more success students, you can do that right here. But what I'd really suggest is, why don't you come and join us at the Property Investors Crash Course? Come along, my guest, completely free, and I'll personally be there for 2 days to help you get started. You can see what happens right here. What you'll notice is all of these stories, they all start at the crash course. So come along, my guest, can't wait to see you there. Peace out.